Have you ever wondered what life was like for medieval people during the winter? What was life like back then? What did they eat? What did they spend their days doing? In this video, we'll explore how people survived the harsh winters, a season filled with danger and extreme hardship. Today we take food availability for granted, but medieval people had to come up with solutions to have enough food for the long winters. To prepare food for the winter without modern equipment, medieval people used a variety of methods to preserve their food. The harsh winter months made it essential to have a reliable food supply, and different preservation techniques ensured that families could survive until the next harvest. Meat preservation was critical. They heavily salted cuts of meat or hung them over smoky fires, creating savory, durable provisions that could last for months. Fruits, vegetables, and herbs were carefully laid out and dried in the sun or air. This simple yet effective method removed moisture, preventing decay, and extended their shelf life. Herbs, in particular, were often tied in bundles and hung from rafters to dry, preserving their flavors for use in winter stews and medicinal remedies. Similarly, plums and berries were sliced and placed on racks or strings to dry. Vegetables were immersed in brine or vinegar, transforming them into tangy, long-lasting staples. Pickled vegetables provided essential vitamins and nutrients during the winter months when fresh produce was scarce. Grains were the backbone of the medieval diet and were meticulously stored in granaries. These structures protected the precious harvest from moisture and pests, ensuring a steady supply of bread throughout the winter. Shelter was crucial for survival, and medieval people had to find solutions we today take for granted. Peasants typically lived in simple, one-room cottages made from readily available materials. The structure usually consisted of a timber frame filled with wattle and daub, a mix of woven wooden strips covered with clay and straw. These walls provided decent insulation, keeping the interior relatively warm in winter. Roofs were thatched with straw or reeds, which offered good protection against the elements, though they required regular maintenance to prevent leaks and deterioration. Inside the house, the central hearth was the focal point. It was used for both cooking and heating, making it an essential feature of daily life. The hearth was typically an open fire located in the center of the room, with smoke venting through a hole in the roof or a simple chimney in later periods. This setup, while smoky, provided necessary warmth and a place to cook meals. Furnishings were minimal and functional. Basic furniture included a rough wooden table, benches, and stools. Sleeping arrangements were equally simple, with straw mattresses placed on the floor or on raised wooden platforms. In some cases, lofts were constructed above the main living space for additional sleeping areas or storage. In some regions, livestock were brought inside the house during the coldest months to protect them from the elements and to benefit from the additional warmth they provided. During the Middle Ages, the forests were controlled by the lord, and peasants had limited ways to ensure they had enough heating for the winter. Firewood was essential for heating, cooking, and providing light. Gathering enough firewood was crucial for survival, and this task often began in the late summer or early autumn. Families would collect and store large quantities of wood to ensure they had enough to last through the winter months. With only their hands, simple tools, and maybe some help from an ox or horse, gathering and maintaining a sufficient supply of firewood required a significant amount of labor. Peasants were responsible for cutting, splitting, and stacking the wood, ensuring they had enough to last through the harsh winter months. They built wood piles strategically to protect the wood from moisture, ensuring it remained dry and ready to use throughout the winter. For medieval people spending the majority of their time outdoors, clothing played a crucial role during the winter. Peasants, who comprised the majority of the population, wore simple and functional clothing primarily made from wool. Wool was highly valued for its warmth, despite its itchiness, and was often layered over linen garments for added comfort against the skin. A typical peasant outfit included knee-length tunics for men and ankle-length tunics for women, providing basic coverage and warmth. Cloaks and mantles were essential for outdoor protection and were made from wool or occasionally fur-lined for additional insulation, fastened with a simple brooch or tied at the neck. To protect their legs, peasants wore leggings and hose, often made from wool or rough cloth. Woolen caps or hoods were worn to protect the head and neck from the cold, and footwear consisted of leather shoes or boots, sometimes lined with fur or stuffed with straw to insulate feet from the snow. In contrast, the nobility wore more elaborate and finely made garments, though still designed for warmth. Their clothing often included luxurious fur-lined cloaks and mantles made from expensive furs like ermine and sable, providing significant warmth. Nobles also wore layered tunics and gowns made from fine wool, silk, and other rich fabrics, which were both warm and a display of wealth. Tight-fitting hose made from finer materials and brightly dyed were common among the nobility. Accessories such as gloves, often fur-lined and embroidered, and elaborate hats were also typical. These items not only kept them warm, but also showcased their status. The isolating aspect of the harsh winters where travel was more difficult made the local community even more important, necessitating strong community bonds and mutual support. Surviving the cold, food scarcity, and health risks required collective effort and cooperation. During the winter, when work on the fields slowed down, communal activities like repairing tools and maintaining buildings were common. The medieval church played a significant role in organizing and encouraging mutual aid. Monasteries and local parishes provided food, shelter, prayers, and limited medical care to the needy. The concept of charity was deeply ingrained in medieval Christian society, and those who were better off were expected to help their less fortunate neighbors. This was not only a moral obligation, but also a practical necessity for community survival. This communal approach ensured that everyone, especially the vulnerable, hopefully had the resources needed to endure the winter. During the winter months, people spent more time indoors and needed creative ways to entertain themselves. Indoors, people gathered to play a variety of games such as dice. Gambling was a favorite pastime even among peasants, adding an element of excitement to the long winter evenings as chance dictated fortunes. Work like weaving, knitting, and woodworking provided both entertainment and useful products. Outdoors, they would engage in archery, ice skating on frozen ponds, and engaging in snowball fights. Thanks for watching. If you found this look into medieval winter survival interesting, consider subscribing for more historical content. See you in the next video.